Hello there. I'm Reverend Nhien, founder of Evolving Enneagram. If you've been seeking a compassion-based, contemplative approach to Enneagram inner work, you are certainly in the right place. This is where contemplation meets the Enneagram. So we are in week 40 of a 52-week Sunday Talk series based on the book by Oren J. Sofer, Your Heart Was Made for This. Today's talk is entitled Generosity of Spirit Around the Circle of the Enneagram. I want to open with a quote from Sofer himself. And he says basically, generosity carries us beyond the narrow purview of self-interest. We often burden the beauty of generosity with the specter of obligation, the fear of debt, or the ghost of insecurity. To truly give, we must see beyond our desires and preoccupations long enough to notice the human being in front of us and recognize that they too have needs. In giving, we relinquish grasping. The Dalai Lama calls giving enlightened self-interest, as helping others contributes to our own well-being. So I love that because I think in truth, I think I can't honestly say that I get nothing out of being giving or being generous, right? But there's a different kind of self-interest, and I like to think of it as self with the capital S, that there is a higher self, a larger self, the way that the right hand gives to the left hand, understanding that we are all part of one body. So that's the spirit in which I look at the spirit of generosity. And so from that perspective, I want to keep this brief today. Oh, by the way, I forgot to say, I'm actually just about to lead a centering prayer practice. I am at a Holy Family Retreat Center in West Hartford, Connecticut. The sun is shining, and I wish I could show you the trees outside have turned here. The fall, it looks amazing here. And yeah, I've been at this weekend contemplative Enneagram soul journey, and it's just been a really beautiful experience. And I want to say hi to those of you in our CPE groups who are actually here. So it's so exciting. And then maybe there are others who are here who will join CPE groups, and that would be amazing. So hello to you, and I'll see you down the hall very shortly. Sofer also says, liberating us from self-centeredness, generosity can heal the disease of craving that is destroying our biosphere. So again, looking at actually generosity of spirit, what that does within us, right? Like it's like we cultivate it within us and then act from a generosity of spirit, but the acting from the generosity of spirit, I believe, also benefits our consciousness, right? So with that, now the types. Okay, so starting with type 1, I want to say that generosity of spirit brings a release of resentment. Resentment being very tight and punitive, literally unforgiving. And a generous spirit is this spirit of forgiveness and acceptance. So that's something that ones in particular, I think, do well to remember, including self-forgiveness, right? The space. And again, from Sofer, he tells a story and says, generosity protects the heart from being judgmental. Just after winning the 1968 Houston Open, the Argentine golfer Robert de Vicenzo gave several $100s to a woman who shared a wrenching tale about her daughter's battle with leukemia. And when later he was told that he'd been scammed, he is said to have joyfully replied, "Her daughter's not dying? My friend, that's the best news I've ever heard." I love that story. Like that spirit of giving and understand that he was giving to someone who needed it, right? Not in a way where we often give in accordance with deservedness, right? Yeah. So generosity of spirit for the 2 requires a profound clarity of intention. So a two might say, well, yeah, I'm giving in order to bring this person more happiness or to relieve their suffering. That's the first level. And so you want to dig in if you're a two to go, but why do I want to relieve this person's happiness or suffering? And check when you give or want to appear giving, to see what you're wanting to get out of it, right? And so again, this is more about just being aware. It's not to say that you shouldn't get anything out of your giving, but when your giving is to manipulate something, you can, it's your suffering that happens, right? This idea that like, oh, they didn't appreciate my gift, or this sense of a bargain for agreement in your giving, so that harms you, right? So for three, the generosity of spirit requires a depth of being. So it does require this contemplative state where I know for me as a three, it's the knowing that there is space in the world for me to authentically be me. And that if I'm my authentic self, there's no competition in that, right? And I think that's shifted even how I hold my support of my teachers and people around me that maybe in the past I would have felt jealous of or threatened by. And this notion of generosity of spirit says there's space for each of us to inhabit fully our own space in the world. So again, that's like contrary to this spirit of competitiveness that is often found in threes, where there needs to be a ranking in order for the three to feel like it's like I have to be the best in order to even have my place in the world, right? There's no other place but that place. And here there's a place for everyone. So for the four, generosity of spirit involves more than the heart. It also includes generosity of mind and action. Because I say that because fours are so good at sitting with people and listening to them when there's struggle or suffering. So there's a great generosity of heart that involves emotional generosity. And so we want to kind of consider a generosity of like non-judgmentalness, that of the mind, of understanding, of putting yourself in their shoes, because force can be self-referencing as well, where it's like it comes back to you as opposed to being about what their experience is and really being curious. And then also it involves action. So sometimes, the force will empathize, but like that action step of like people are actually helping, physically helping. So for the five, generosity of spirit admittedly involves a pretty fundamental shift in your worldview from this belief system that there are scarce resources, right? And scarce time, money, energy. And so those need to be guarded, to be managed and conserved like at all times. So in addition, you might consider that when you there's a belief, a false belief, a limiting belief that uh, if you give, that person will expect even more of you, or if you give, you will lose. I mean, there's just this belief in that, and that belief, that tightness actually exhausts you more, drains your resources more. So some of the exhaustion is just the exhaustion of self-containment, right? The work to keep things dammed up, if you will. And so consider an experiment of generosity. So you're not just doing a thought experiment, you're actually going out and offering, whether it's offering your counsel or offering your time or sharing from your experience. And then for sixes, sixes are highly considerate of others. And yet, just like twos, there's some element of strategic giving toward what supports your sense of security in the world, where you'll give to the groups or the people who are like on your side, on your team, in your tribe. And so generosity of spirit involves being willing to stay open-hearted toward those with beliefs that might scare you. For sevens, sevens generally want people to be happy around them. And so there is that generosity of spirit in that attitude. But that's limiting because sevens can do well to cultivate their capacity for true and like deep feeling uh, that allows you as a seven to stay present with people when they're in their when they're struggling, and so that you can really be there and not flee when people are having a hard time. So that would be a generous expression of spirit for you. And for the eight, generosity of spirit involves not giving from on high, because eights can be so magnanimous. It's like royalty. I will give to the subjects, I will give to the dependents, I will give to the weaklings. And so that helps you actually to maintain your egoic ideal of being powerful and strong. So consider generosity of spirit being about reciprocal giving. And so what I mean by that is twofold. One is where you're actually feeling a sense of shared receiving and giving in the exchange. That's one way. But also, I've noticed that eights tend to not give as much laterally or upward, like as if, oh, they're in power, they don't need help, and so just really considering that there's a bias there, so that your generosity is more of like, I maintain the strength and I give down, as opposed to really feeling a sense of benevolence for those who have power, who have strength themselves, and to open generosity either sideways or upward in that way. And then finally, the nines, generosity of spirit isn't just about going or giving with everyone else's flow. So I think my question for nines is how might you initiate your own tidal wave of good? So again, gratitude can be seen as a breathing in, and generosity as a breathing out. So we practice generosity from a state of having, not a state of depletion. And at the same time, sometimes we can stretch our container so that we can open to receiving more of a sense of abundance, whether it's from other people or from that indwelling spirit. And from that, consider your giving, your generosity. So let me know how it goes. Much love to all. See ya.